Dear Harstem, I am very tired of lurkers. Every time I try to play macro versus Zerg, it ends with Zerg massing lurkers and just sitting there like a frog in its pond. And then he just sieges my bases, and I can't do anything about it. In this game, I managed to deflect Zerg's early attempt to annoy me with hatchery in my natural, and after that I even successfully counterattacked with my War Prism and Charge Lots, ruining Zerg's entire economy and leaving him with only breadcrumbs. I got pretty big on army supply and my economy was golden. I got everything I needed to win this game. The swarm was in shambles. But then, this happened. Zerg got lurkers, these ugly abominations of the swarm, wackily destroyed all my chances to get a W. I can't even begin to understand what was in the head of a man who made an invisible unit that can practically wipe out any ground army without any problems. It requires no control and even less brain. Now, I might be slightly brain damaged, but I'm pretty sure that this type of lurker player is even more brain damaged than I am. So the question is it IMBA or do I suck? This was sent in to me by a player called Low Skilled on the European ladder in the Diamond League with 3,322 MMR, asking, is the lurker imbalanced or does he suck? Let's figure it out. Before we truly get into this Rockman versus Low Skilled game, I'd like to just talk about the phrase that Low Skilled used, that the lurkers were like a frog in its pond. I've never heard of this in my entire life, so I quickly Googled it, and no one else had ever heard of this in their entire lives. The phrase a small frog in a big pond or a big frog in a small pond, similar with small fish in a big pond, has been used before, and there's also a big frog in a small pond theory, but being like a frog in a pond, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm really curious what these lurkers will be. Will they be happy or will they be sad? As a speech, obviously, a language evolves over time. So I'm really curious what this particular phrase means. Maybe this is like some local European thing somewhere. In one of the European countries, this managed to, be incorporated in the English version that they use there. Maybe the British. It's a European replay. So maybe not the British. Not really part of Europe anymore, are they? But it is possible that it's like maybe a local proverb or idiom and then straight up translated into English. Either way, I'd never heard of it. And I'm actually kind of curious. Like a frog in its pond. I bet they're happy there. It's like a fish in water, basically. And the lurkers were like a frog in its pond. Either way, this is not that important, as we have a hatchery that, according to Low Skilled, got deflected very well. He said, I deflected the early proxy hatchery. Now, I know a lot about deflecting proxy hatcheries. So far, this deflection looks pretty piss poor, to be honest. This is a third hatch proxy, which needs to be dealt with by pulling a couple of workers, single Zealot, single gate, and then a Nexus as quickly as you can, as well as fast adepts which you can send across the map. This is not an actual aggressive proxy build. This is not a build in which the Zerg player is hoping to kill you with this. Not at all. This is to delay your Nexus. So this is an overblown response. It really is. This is usually not considered the correct response, because it isn't the correct response. And now pulling workers is perhaps a bit late. We're going to see a battery coming in here as well. A second battery. This is about as big of a misread on this situation that you can make. Because you don't need to be building batteries. You have 2-gate production. Even with 1-gate production, you don't need any extra batteries. You don't need any of this. I do like the Stargate. I think that is the correct call with it. If you want to play... why is this dude still in the wall as well? Or already in the wall, I should ask. This was a 3-hatch before pool. There's no way there's going to be speed links coming out anytime soon. And if your opponent is sending links across the map, that is exactly what you want. What did he just lose? Did he just lose a unit? I think he just lost a probe. Okay, lost a probe, killed 1 link so far. This has to be the worst defense against a build that isn't even aggressive that I've seen in my entire life. Like, this is exploding with rage after someone compliments you. It's like, that is the inappropriate response here, my friend. Like, what did you just call me? He's like, well, a good and intellectual scholar is like, that's disgusting. He's like, well, usually that's considered a compliment. This is not aggressive. Like, the Zerg he's building spores. Defensively, he's afraid of the Oracle coming in soon, which I think is actually a fair call because he scouted the Stargate. Absolutely, this is a fair call. Look, Stargate is here. This just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Right now, low skilled is like a rat in a bar fight, which is basically completely out of place. He's going to be down 6 workers, but what's worse is he's down 700 minerals in income every single minute due to the fact that he can't build a nexus. Now, someone with a brain or less brain damage than low skilled might look at this situation and think to himself, maybe I should build a nexus over on the 3rd base location rather than having to meticulously clean every single creep tumor for the next 4 minutes, or go into a robotics facility to churn out an observer and then clear it. He could have just taken this base as well, which would have been a completely fair response, but because he believed he was being attacked, he wanted to hold his 1 base. He's going to be fighting against 3 bases, while he's going to be stuck on a single nexus, going up to 6 gateways, 1 base, 6 gate, and 3 different types of tech structures. He literally got every single basic tech that he could. The Stargate, the robotics facility, and the Twilight Council. The only thing that's missing here is the Dark Shrine and Templar Archives and the Fleet Beacon. We really didn't need the Observer out of the robotics facility. Why didn't we need the Observer out of the robotics facility? Because we could have just built an Oracle as the first unit, used a Revelation on the creep, and cleared it. Instead, we're wasting more and more money on pointless tech. Now we're getting a Templar Archives, cancelling our 6th gateway, which means we'll remain with 5 gates. Long distance mining from the natural. While the main base isn't even completely saturated yet, it is more efficient to have 20 workers on minerals in the main than it is to long distance mine. That is always going to be the case. Above 20 workers, there isn't really much of a payoff, or there isn't any payoff really in the main base. So after 20, you can start long distance mining, but before that, it is better to go up to 20 out of 16. It looks weird because the numbers will turn red. It's actually good. First attack here coming out of low skilled hits 6 minutes and 10 seconds into the game. His opponent, meanwhile, has his +1 practically done. Like, these queens are almost defending with +1 attack against 2 adapt harass, which is just phenomenal stuff. He's gonna end up losing, what is that, 5 workers, which honestly is more than Rockman probably should have. Rockman also is floating 1500 minerals because he has had an income in the past few minutes. Has a gas bank as well, is insanely far ahead. Meanwhile, low skilled is about to enter the natural, I assume, with this prism. Now. 3. Now. There we go. Yeah, it's only took about 15 seconds after putting it in the flying mode. Does control it now, and as there are 3 queens and 10 links, this actually could just deal a lot of damage. This is, I think, the beauty of lower level games, is that the early game doesn't actually seem to matter so much, because any aggression can kill at any point. Like, this hit insanely late with no units. Even if he would have opened up with a 4 base opener, this still would have hit too late, basically. Like, you could have opened 4 Nexi before Gateway, and this would have hit harder if you go into it and you have something that resembles a build. Like, this was 7 Zealots, 7 minutes in, but it can still just work. That's the beauty. And so I could talk for days about how poor the defense was against the proxy hatch, but as a matter of fact, it doesn't actually matter. Because Rockman at the same time is having also a very, very poor defense here to this Zealot assault. This, I don't really want to call it an attack. It felt more, yeah, I guess it is an attack, but it's not a timing attack, that's for sure. Or if it is a timing attack, then the timing would be too late. And despite it being too late, it's still working. 16 workers now against 41. As well as an army, soon to be an army advantage, as there are 5 gateways. We have the robotics facility that can be pumping out immortals. Would love to see a 3rd base. I mean, this just looks fantastic for low skilled at this point. It shouldn't, but I mean, if you kill 36 workers and 16 links and 5 queens, 8 roaches, 6 hydras, as well as a hatchery apparently, and you only lose 14 zealots, yeah, that's a pretty good freaking start. As we see Rockman here desperately trying to rebuild a bunch of these workers as well. Still has some roaches alive, 16 roaches currently. We have no scouting whatsoever. Low skilled has managed to use all 3 of his scouting units, or his units that are capable of scouting, to put them all at the exact same location. Observer is just checking out the Archon, Phoenix, Oracle, all in the same control group. Although, now that I say it, I wonder if there actually is a control group, or if we're just F2ing our army around the entire time. That seems a little bit more likely. The all army hotkey is a... is a blessing and a curse at the same time very often. Maybe we can get a lift with this Graviton Beam. Very nice. Well done. That's good. It's gonna get a pick off a free roach. So Rockman tried to scout, sees at least what the army comp of his opponent looks like. We have a third base for low skilled as well, who has allowed his opponent to rebuild about 32 workers. I think I saw the number 16 at some point. Now we're back to 48. And one could wonder whether this is a wise decision. Is it wise to let your opponent completely drone back up to a decent drone count, or would it be smarter to, trying to continue pressing on? So we have, let's get some nice long distance mining here. Thermal lens on the way, as well as disruptors. Thermal lens, of course, well known for improving the range of the disruptor. Storm, I think, just finished. Do we have Templar? We have no Templar either. So it looks like we're just researching upgrades for units we don't want to build. Which, once again, an interesting call if your eco consists of 52 workers, of which 15 were long distance mining for majority of the game. Oracle is now continuing to turn on his pulsar beam, going to the main base, hold positioning next to this. Oh, look at this. This is some great Oracle micro. This guy spent days in the unit micro tester going for his Oracle micro. Probably should have honestly just spent some time in the help menu, figuring out what the hell thermal lens actually does. It is for +2 range on the Colossus. It doesn't do anything for the disruptors. Storm doesn't do anything for Archons either. I think in Brood War, there is a difference between Archons made out of Templar, High Templar, and Archons made out of Dark Templar. And I believe that one of the Archons, probably one made out of High Templar, I think they can Storm, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken though. I hardly ever played Brood War. I could actually play that. I'm really curious how high I could get on the ladder if I just get a build order. How many weeks would it take me to beat Artosis? That's what I want to know. That actually would be pretty fun. I could actually just do that. Try a little bit of Brood War. Some build order guides, all that. Ooh, that's exciting. Double Forge here coming down right now. Oh, he doesn't have any upgrades either. I completely missed that, to be honest. As he is adding in Colossus at this point. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We have some Templar once again. Hopefully these are for Storm as well. We still only use a single control group, which is going to make control extremely difficult with Phoenix, Disruptor, Templar, all kind of trying to get that priority when it comes to the spellcasting. Seems to me like the Templar first, Phoenix second, and Disruptor third priority. So that's a lot of tabbing, which I'm not quite sure if we're going to see any of that. Here, low skill decides to attack across the map. Rockman with the revolutionary move of running away from his opponent's army, which honestly is as good a call as you're gonna get. Rockman here does something so intelligent. He says, hey, my army is too small. I can never win a straight up engagement. I'm gonna actually put 6 spines in my main base so I can keep my main and then counterattack. Now, this shouldn't work. This shouldn't work. But it is absolutely the correct call because it is impossible right now to hold. And I love this move. He's just got eaten there by that one disruptor shot. This is a good defense, by the way, out of low skilled as well. Gets the storm, casts the stuff. Very nice. I like that. He's going to get another big warp in. Could use a super battery as well to keep his units alive a little bit longer. The fact that he still has 0 upgrades really isn't helping here. Any amount of upgrades would be fantastic as we get another observer snipe out of Rockman here. And the main base is being held by Lurker Spine. Now, one could have perhaps suggested to low-skilled that attacking a base that isn't being defended but is still mining, 2 bases which aren't being defended and are still mining, would have maybe been a better target. But I'm not sure if you can reach low-skilled with reason. As so far, not the most reasonable guy when it comes to the playing. But nonetheless, very far ahead. 56 workers to 36, bigger army. Only thing low-skilled is currently lacking is 2 things. Upgrades and perhaps a brain, although that second one we're still here really to figure out how severe the brain damage is. And of course, the philosophical question, can you have brain damage if there is no brain? Maybe not so much a philosophical question as a biological question. Sure, the biologists in the comments can answer me that. Like a frog in their pond. Okay, 1-1 does start. 3 more Hydras on the way. And currently the main complaint, the unit that has been complained about by low skilled is here in numbers of 3. So we have 3 lurkers so far. Moving across to the 3rd base, or what once was the 3rd base, now the 2nd. This is turned into the 3rd, and the gold base of his opponent functioning as the 4th base. Once again, we see Rockman here being allowed to kind of drone back up to, well, I was going to say a reasonable number, but he's at 38, so this is still god-awful. We have somewhat consistent Colossus production. This is going to be the 3rd one. We have a robotics facility, number 2, on the way. I think that's number 2. Yeah, we don't have another one yet. So these upgrades are finishing up. Lots of cannons as well being added in, which I don't mind it, but I definitely don't like it too much either. I think right now we're really in a phase of the game where if low-skilled farts in the direction of Rockman will probably fall over and die because he has no units whatsoever to speak of. There are 3 lurkers, 13 Hydras. I mean, at this point, just the Archon Zealot would be enough. Just the Zealot Colossus would be enough. The Archon Stalker. Like, you could have, like, 3 different parts of this army by themselves should probably be enough to just kill whatever Rockman has. On top of that, the bases are very poorly defended, but low-skilled is fairly unaware of the fact that there even is a base over here. He's now going to be made aware of the fact that there is a lurker, which I guess just gonna get spotted and killed. Relatively quick response. Still haven't scouted. I think one of the main problems that low-skilled has is the fact that he has no clue what his opponent's situation is. Like, he just doesn't scout at all, despite having, I think at this point, 2 observers. There's an oracle as well in here, in this composition. I think I just heard the anime voice as well as the announcer. That's always a big freaking tell. Like, I have nothing against anime as a thing, but generally, as a rule, people that are really into anime, there's often something wrong with them. And I feel like low-skilled is once again kind of showing that. It's often players that send in the worst IODIS complaint forums have the anime voice running. This can't be a coincidence. There's a certain level of brain rot that you need to have had to truly enjoy this type of stuff. 4 Vipers now on the way. Everybody's just focusing on the gas as well. Minerals are fun, but gas, that's really where the future is at. No renewables for this or quite yet. This base is finally getting targeted down. I'm still honestly shocked by how passive low-skilled has been. It feels like he kind of goes in timing attacks, but rather than using upgrades or spikes in tech, like power spikes in tech, it seems like he's just based on timings. Maybe just as like an alarm clock that goes off or something every 4.5 minutes or every 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Then he decides to go across the map with whatever army he has at that point. Almost like it's a co-op mission. Where the AI attacks you with some random crap every 5 minutes or so. Every 4 minutes and 33 seconds, whatever it is. It's a fantastic observer control. Look at this. I love the kiting as well. Against the static. Look at this. This is the type of stuff that makes my day. This actually is it. Rather than trying to figure out what his opponent's army composition is, or maybe what he should be getting, he spends his entire being of trying to kite a hatchery. Look at this. He's kiting a hatchery. Stutter stepping and trying to kite a hatchery. Well, he's melee units. This is phenomenal. I just don't understand that type of stuff. Oh, now flies everything he has into the lurkers. The first Blinding Cloud is going to hit. Maybe you want to use feedbacks on these 4 Vipers that are here. No, of course not. Unnecessary. See if we can fly any more observers into a spore. No, we can't. Okay, it's gonna stay safe. Clears this base. Honestly, job well done. Has just seen that his opponent's army consists of pure Viper lurker. This is a man that has about 7k resources in the bank. What is the response? Pure lurker, no eco. Is there anything that the lurker might be weak against? Yes, there are like 50 different things that the lurker is weak against. One of those things are air units. Lurkers do not shoot up. Tempest, carriers. I don't want to say void rays, but even void rays at this point would probably be sufficient to win a game. But if you don't want to go into air, I understand it. Get a couple of immortals out, increase your Archon count. All of these things work extremely well, and make sure to at all times have oracles in your army so you're capable of using revelation. These are my tips if you struggle with lurkers as a Protoss player. But generally I'd say at high level, Tempest are the best. At lower level, carriers are the best because they're much easier to control and they're really difficult to control again. So I always say, hey, if you're struggling with lurkers, build some freaking carriers. Never attack into the lurkers unless you're 100% sure you're gonna win the fight. And if you're never 100% sure, just don't attack into the lurkers and just go to bases where the lurkers aren't until you have enough carriers where you can just aim move across the map and win. Low skilled with a massive army with a big amount of cannons, superior base count is now gonna go back in a base trade against lurkers with 6 Hydras as the anti-air force. Okay, that's minus 25 supply there. Now, I just want to pause here for a second, just so that we could see how different the response could be, okay? Right in this moment, what could we possibly be doing? Okay, I think at some point he figures out that his opponent's moving across the map. I think the moment you see these overseers moving there, it's like, hey, why are these overseers? Okay, then he sees it with the cannon, sees the lurkers. Now, here, you have static defense here. You know you have more bases. And you have much better production. You have freaking 2 robos, you have a Stargate. Lurkers are bad in base trades because they need to siege, unsiege. Takes a lot of time. The constant walking, getting into range of buildings, clearing static defense in front of bases without being hit. That sucks and is very time consuming. On top of that, the army that low skilled has here is so much bigger that it just kills stuff faster as well. There's more damage output. So the first thing you want to do in this case is freaking base trade and build 30 cannons at one of the bases. I don't even care what base it is. You just need one base to have 30 cannons. And you just go eliminate all the other guys' stuff. You can start building freaking void rays as well, or you could finally add a fleet beacon and a second Stargate, or just 3 Stargates over here. Expand towards the right side. These would be correct calls. The incorrect call is trying to desperately run into lurkers, which when they're sieged into a position are actually pretty freaking strong, especially if your army walks into a line without even moving. This has to be one of the worst fights in the world. I actually want to see that one more time, sorry. So this starts before this fight. The resources lost is 12k to 15,925 resources lost. Look at this. Look at this. So that's like what, minus 2k already for the Protoss? Sieges up these observers. Goes in again. The Zerg has lost nothing. So far killed 10k resources. Will the Zerg actually lose nothing? The Zerg lost nothing and killed about 9 or 10k worth of resources. This might actually be the best fight I've seen in my entire life. Like, legit. At this point, the Protoss is in a really bad spot. Despite that, is still winning. A base trade would still win 100% of the time. Any amount of air units would still help you win. You can pump disruptors, shoot 1 or 2 balls, lose the disruptors, rinse and repeat while you're constantly base trading with more and more zealots. This takes so freaking long for these lurkers to move in forward. It actually hurts me. Disruptors not being used? What are we even controlling at this point? I'm really curious. Nothing. Okay, here comes a disruptor. That's a good shot. It's nothing. That's okay. GGB. I wonder if I could still win at this point. Because there's a lot of cash in the bank for the Zerg as well. Like, if I were to play this against Lambo or Rain or Elaser, I guess I'll lose my production too quickly. And they still have some cash. But the Zerg obviously isn't building anything. I feel like up until 15 seconds ago, I would have been capable of winning. But now it's too far. So the time of leaving probably is correct. But holy crap, this was legitimately probably the worst fight ever in any IODIS that I've seen in my entire life. Which is impressive because we've been running IODIS for like the past 4 years or so with one a week. It's like, what, 200 freaking IODIS. It's almost 250 probably at this point. And I think this is actually, like, monetarily wise, the worst fight I've ever seen. He lost nothing and killed 10k in resources. I could also go on, by the way, for about 5 hours on all the other mistakes that were made in this game by the Protoss players, but all of those were still irrelevant because he got ahead. He just got ahead anyway because both players, they don't have too much of a clue what they're doing, and that's pretty much always going to be the case when you're at this level. It's like if you could do something aggressive and it hits well, you're going to deal so much damage that very often afterwards, you don't have to play so well to win the game. You just have to make sure that when you're fighting, you at least kill something. Or if you can't fight, that you base trade. And although I disliked everything that the Zerg player did this game, the one thing I really appreciate was the Lurker Viper control and the fact that he always went for base trades whenever Rockman realized that it was necessary. First with the Roach Hydra and now with the Lurker Viper. And honestly, it kind of worked. This had very little to do with the Lurker being magically overpowered. I feel like this also could have been a massive Brute Lord army. It just has to do with the fact that you have no clue what to do against slow CG armies. And sometimes the best thing to do is to counterattack. Sometimes the best thing to do is to engage. And sometimes the best thing to do is to just go into air units, something that counters it. You honestly picked none of the right options at any point. And I'm sorry, but I'll have to say that it is you who is more brain damaged than the Lurker Zerg. And it also is you who sucks. And it's not the Lurker that is imbalanced. That's going to be it for me today. Like a frog in its pond. I felt great. I hope you all had a great time as well. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see all of you next time for a new video. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.